that's odd. Okay.
All right, let me pull up got that sent. Now you had sent me questions. I'm trying to find the questions you sent me.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them. I don't know where they are, but that's okay.
No, yeah, listen, no worries. I'm sure I'm not gonna throw you any curveballs.
No, no, I'm good. I mean, I don't recall anything that struck me as anything really.
Cool.
Now, if it's okay,
Yeah.
I don't know how big is your audience. Who's your audience, first of all? Is it just real estate investors?
Yeah, it's people, real estate is their passion. They're not always sure which vehicle is the right one for them. Um, which was the case for me. You know, I started as a wholesaler, and then I tried one fix and flip and said I don't think that's my lane. And now, you know, I have 12 units as short-term rentals. So you
Okay,
kind of just figure it out.
gotcha. Well, I've got an ebook I give away. I call it the 6 steps to getting any deal done. And it's
Oh,
basically talks about here's the 6 steps if you want to do a wholesale, a buy and hold, flip, or new construction. There's 6 steps to do any of those deals. And then I can do it. I can also, invite people, hey, if you want, I'll do a 15-minute free session with you. Text me, I'll send you a link.
sweet. That's great because that's something that I want to put in the description. As I start up my when I get the YouTube
Okay.
edited and everything else, because that's value.
Yeah, like I can text people, but I'll give you the link as well. So I
Yeah.
can give out my number, so just text me and I'll send you the link. But I'm gonna give you the link as well.
Oh, that's amazing.
Give it to
Okay.
you right now. Give me just a second. And I'll pillar up. Let's see here. I have like 5,000 windows open on my computer. So
And it looks like I'm getting ready to go live here on Facebook. Let me just double check. Okay, yeah, that link is working. Now let me port it over to my Instagram, and we'll be ready to roll at the top of the hour. Like, let me get
cool.
my timer going here.
And I just put my link in the chat.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Got it. Yep, I see it. Okay, sweet. All right. All right, so we'll be shown live shortly.
Okay. I'm excited.
I'm super excited. I
Make
am
sure
super excited.
I'll set my phone over here so in case it goes off, we won't hear it. All right. You're doing good otherwise, rocking and rolling?
Yeah, just I'm gonna it's funny that you talked about your book. I just finished my first ebook
Yeah,
on short-term rentals,
okay.
big ideas, mindset, commitment to investing in yourself. I even talk a little bit about the law of attraction, and some, newbie mistakes. I'm about, every time I think I'm done, I see something that let me change it a little bit more. But I should have been done with this ebook probably about 30 days ago. But I just keep wanting to make it better.
No, I
Um,
hear I hear
yeah.
you. That's
So,
awesome.
that's exciting. That's exciting. And
Love
just
it.
just teaching, picking up um clients every month that just are wanting to do a short term but don't want the exposure of having to own the property outright. So there's two models I teach. I teach the arbitrage model, and I teach the co-listing model.
Gotcha. Short-term rentals is the one thing that I could teach, but I really don't. Even though I've done short-term rentals since 2013, I've never like blown it up into a business.
Right.
Like I've just sort of done it on the side a little bit.
Uh-huh.
We've tried it in some cities, and at the end of the day, what we found is we like short-term rentals in vacation areas.
Hmm.
We don't like them anywhere else.
So that's great. So part of my model is I kind of steer away from the vacation areas because that's where the most competition is.
True, true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we our clients are learning a more business driven model where if there's a hospital or if there's a power plant, and you have remote workers, there's an opportunity to service them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's a little better than what we were doing is, hey, here's just a good deal in downtown Atlanta, and the numbers worked. And the numbers did work, but the clientele was not good. And so we
Oh,
ended up getting rid of the property because it was such a hassle. We
wow.
just got rid of it. So we've tried that in a couple of cities. So we were like, we didn't try it the way you just described it, but we knew vacation spots just worked.
Yes, yes.
So
They
probably
do.
not, probably not as profitable, but it was pretty predictable.
Yeah, no,
It was
no.
pretty predictable, and that was nice. So it was just kind of, and we enjoyed the heartfelt stories and the guest book and all that. So it was cool.
Cool, cool. All right. I'm ready to stop the clock and I'm ready to have a conversation.
Looking forward to it.
All right, it is showtime. We're at the top of the hour. We are live on all of our social media platforms, and I am super excited. I'm gonna take a couple minutes to share some prepared words. But here's the thing: I got a chance to. I almost think it was about 4 years ago, Frank, where I first ran across you. Um, and I think what I was, as you know, I live in New York, but I was doing some virtual wholesaling down in the Atlanta market. And I don't know if you realized, I was immediately drawn to you because of you. You had an energy about you on the phone, and uh, it was obvious to me that you knew a lot more than me, but you were so willing to kind of help out. And so one thing led to another. I got you on a podcast at the time. I think the name of my podcast was Wealth Through Wholesaling. And you came on and you were one of the highest viewed programs during that 2 year period. And I was just super excited that our paths crossed a second time. So having said all that, Frank, let me give you my prepared words. You ready?
All righty.
So here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be energized and inspired by a true, in my opinion, titan of the real estate world. He will be joining us today, a dynamic entrepreneur who has various business spanning multiple states. Frank is no stranger to the thrill of the deal. From wholesaling transactions to fix and flips, rentals, new construction, he's done a little bit of all. But what truly set Frank's apart is his heart for helping people. Yes, he's an educator, he's an investor, he's a real estate powerhouse. Frank's journey is a testament to the power of perseverance and tenacity. He doesn't just create opportunity, he seizes them and grabs them by the throat. So get ready to be captivated as Frank shares some insights, some strategies, some secrets in the competitive world of real estate. So at this time, I want to give it up to our guest on Level Up, Mr. Frank Iglesias. How you doing today, Frank?
I'm doing good. Wow. I don't know. I don't know. That's that introduction. Those are some big shoes to fill, but we'll give it a shot and see how it goes.
Oh no, you got this, man. You absolutely got this. So what's been going on since I talked to you last?
4 years. Wow. So it's been 4 years. So a lot has happened in 4 years. And, our business has evolved massively in that time. It has also shifted in a lot of respects. We've had the opportunity to have some great highs, but we've also had some massive lows. Okay, so I tell people, I've seen the mountaintop. I've also seen the gates of hell.
Yeah.
So I've seen both, and I've lived in both, and I've had to deal with both. And you're like, well, how would you deal with the mountaintop? Well, when you're on the mountaintop, everyone thinks everything's always smooth. It's not really the case. It's just different problems.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're up, you got different problems than when you're down, but you always have problems. And so I've learned that the problems are always there, whether it's high or low. And when it's low, all right, how do we recover? And that can be a slow, grueling process. But when you're up high, it's like, yeah, it's awesome, but you also have, people shooting at you sometimes. And I think that's the part you don't hear about a lot of times is the perception of success. And, that comes with its own things to deal with. And so, we've taken a much more holistic view of business since we last spoke.
Okay.
And really, we've done plenty of the flips, the new builds, the rentals, the wholesaling. And now it's kind of like, all right, we've done all that. What do we really want to do moving forward? Like, what really moves the needle for us? What gets us excited? And the biggest shift I will tell you is, 4 years and before ago, we were still a little bit of a volume mindset.
Right.
And now our mindset isn't really that anymore. It's more of a people mindset. And that's why we birthed a podcast on our side. And that's just been magnificent. Really just bringing business back to people. And it's really interesting because the more I focus on people, the more I realize how many people don't focus on people.
Wow.
But when you're thinking deal,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily focused on, like, you think you're focused on people, you think you're giving it the attention it needs, and then you realize, wait a minute, there's a lot of room for improvement there.
Right. Right.
So now we're much more focused on people more so, and don't get me wrong, we love the thrill of the deal, but you know, nowadays we've become much more business savvy. So a lot of the deals we might have bought 4 or 5 years ago, we wouldn't buy them today. We look at it a little bit different, a lot more knowledge, a lot more experience in some areas. And so, you know, it's just an evolution of business.
Absolutely. Not all money is good money.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So- and you said something a moment ago that had me thinking about um I'm always kind of reading 2 or 3 books at the same time, but it was about relationships evolving from being transactional to being transformational. Tell me about that. How were you? How has that been for you? Because there's always sometimes people in your world for a season and for a reason, and then they're no longer in your sphere. Tell me a bit about how that's been for you, because you deal with a lot of people.
I love the way you just said it. People are there for a season for a reason. I think that's how you just said it.
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah,
And or they're there for a reason for a season, whatever the order was. But I think that's true. I think one of the ways we've evolved is we realized not everyone that comes into your circle is supposed to be there all the time.
hmm
And that's okay. Like it's not a bad thing for some things to move along. Okay. Not everyone evolves at the same rate. Everyone has their own experiences. My idea of up and down looks like this because I've seen that high, I've seen that low. But the next person's idea of up and down might look like this.
right. Yeah,
Neither is necessarily right or wrong. It's just that's how the experience is played out. But those experiences really shift and can impact your perception of not just the deal, but the relationship, both current and future.
true,
And
true.
so I've learned to not, when you go through some tough times, you really learn empathy to a new level.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, there's levels of empathy in me today that I would not have had if I hadn't experienced some of what I experienced. By
Absolutely.
the same token, had I not experienced those things, I would not be able to make an impact or be a blessing to some people because I wouldn't have had those experiences to fall, to touch base with and connect them to people that say, oh my gosh, this, that, and the other. And you're like, no, you're going to be okay.
hmm
There will be another day. And, at the end of the day, we've just really learned so much of the business now just goes back to people. And it's become a lot easier to have very real conversations with people. But kind of like I was saying a minute ago, the more comfortable I am with having real conversations with people, the more I realize how many people really are not comfortable. And a lot of people will avoid a conversation as if it was life or death, which has been surprising, but I don't judge them because I realize they're just in a different space,
hmm
right? Everyone's got to come to that point where they're comfortable having real conversations when they're ready. And I don't know if you're ever ready, really, right? Like it's so when I say ready, I mean just willing to make a decision to go for it, right?
Well, so I'm of the belief that and most of the people who are following this podcast either are full-time entrepreneurs or they're entrepreneurs part-time, and they're just trying to make that shift. And honestly, being an entrepreneur means solving problems. When you solve problems and you can do it in a way where you're serving, people will pay you. So to your point, in thinking about the relationships, I think my audience would be really kind of interested on your backstory. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How'd you navigate into the real estate industry, and what's been some of your joys, and what's been some of your valleys?
Wow. So we'll start current and go backwards. How about that?
Mhm.
because you used the word entrepreneur a few times.
Yep.
And the life of an entrepreneur is definitely a risky one
Yep.
in many ways. And a lot of times that risk is not, am I willing to buy a house or a multifamily, or maybe it's a business? The biggest risk is, are you willing to take that chance on yourself to make a commitment and actually see it through?
Yep.
And that's something that is, I wish someone had told me that when I started, because it took me a long time to learn that. So going way back to when we started, I used to be former IT. I was the computer guy. I was in the back room. I was about as far from being an entrepreneur as you could be. You know, heavy left brain computer guy, the guy in the back room making computers run so the company can run and yada, yada, all that. It was a great time, had a great time. But the thinking and the way you operate in that business was so radically different from being an entrepreneur. You know, I started doing a couple of deals on the side. Didn't take a lot of time because, of course, I was working full time. So, you know, I couldn't really devote a lot of time. But I was able to do like a couple of wholesale deals on the side. And I was like, wow, long story short, we quit IT. We actually didn't quit IT because of real estate. I actually left IT because I was bored. I had done it for 15 years, and I'll never forget the day I told my manager, who's an amazing person, I said, I'm leaving, but I'm not leaving the company. I'm leaving the profession because I was just bored.
Right.
We were very good at what we did. Great team, great company. Everything was great. And I was bored. Well, when everything's great and you're bored, it was time, right? That's how I knew. So we get into this thing called being a real estate entrepreneur. And, you know, it's interesting. I had no idea. Like, it's like you take a class, you take a course, you think you know a few things. Yeah, we didn't really know anything. I mean, we did know a few things. And then, you know, and I got involved with some training and all that. But, you know, looking back, there was a lot of highs, there was a lot of lows, but the biggest high or low really wasn't real estate per se. Because real estate, for all the entrepreneurs listening, real estate is not a be all end all. It's taught like it is. People take courses, and there's nothing wrong. All that's good. But real estate is not a be all end all. It's just a vehicle. That's all it is. It doesn't matter if you flip, rent, develop, it's just a vehicle. That's all it is. The positive from real estate was we did a lot of deals. We did a lot of really nice things. Thankfully, most of it worked out, but not everything worked out. But most of it did. But the downside is twofold. The first part of the downside of all those years was we never lost money on a deal for 9 years. This is gonna sound kind of crazy. That was probably the worst thing that happened to us.
Whoa, whoa. Okay, I just want to highlight that the worst thing that happened was you didn't lose money for the first 9 years.
That's correct. That was probably the worst thing that happened. I wish we would have experienced a real loss early so we could understand what it meant to recover from adversity.
Hmm.
And
Gotcha.
it doesn't mean, I mean, loss is loss, right? Whether it's small or large, the reality is the emotion's the same. And that's what I've learned is if you lose a little money, a lot of money, the emotion and the stress and the headache is exactly the same. And it might seem a little weird, but when you experience it, believe me, it's the same. It's the same exact stress. So I wish we had learned how to deal with that adversity early. That would have been helpful. The other big challenge that came up was there was a period of about 3 years-ish where I did not have a coach. And that's when all the mistakes happened. That's when all the mistakes happened. And that was when we screwed it all. And of course, you don't even realize you're screwing it
Right.
until later. And you're like, oh my gosh, now you got this big old mess. And how did I get here? And it's actually pretty easy. The 3 years or so I did not have a coach, that's when all the mistakes happened. So I'm a proponent now of, if you're gonna be in business, you need a coach. If you're in business and you don't have a coach, you know, it's there's a bomb in your future.
Yeah,
And I'll say
absolutely.
that with 99.9999% certainty, there's a bomb in your future. Every professional sports team, as we know, has a coach.
That's right.
The best GOATs in the world had a coach. I've had the opportunity to go into some amazing business circles. And what I've learned about every single high net worth person I've met has some kind of coach. Some might say mentor, advisor, whatever. They've got that ear, usually multiple ears, that they talk to on a regular basis to bounce anything and everything off of. And I cannot speak that enough. And I'll scream it from the rooftop. If you're in the real estate business or you're just an entrepreneur, you need a coach. If you don't have one, there's a bomb in your future.
Wow.
I hate to use that word. It's probably not the best word to use, but
No, I love it though.
It's a metaphor, right?
No, Frank, I love it because, as I told you, chapter 2 of my ebook is investing in yourself. And the whole idea of you being the smartest person in the room is the beginning of the problems. You need to put yourself in spaces and places where you're not the smartest person in the room. And a lot of times you got to invest so you can get into that room. And that is mentoring. That is having a coach. And for everyone who's listening online, what I heard Frank said is the years that he made his mistakes is when he did not have a coach. And we fast forward right now, Frank is a coach of coaches. so let's turn that corner a little bit. So mentorship has always been important to you. How did that come about where you pivoted and you're now in a position to coach others?
So I used to teach music many years ago. So I've been in that teaching environment for a long time. And that was fun. It was super rewarding. And then when I got into IT, there was a couple of years where I did some consulting. And that was a blast. I mean, truthfully, that was a blast because you could go into companies and consult and help teams. And they looked at you like the authority, but really you always felt like the student. Because again, you're walking into another business and you don't know what's going on. So you're really having to learn really fast and then figure out how to turn it into results for them. So that was a lot of fun for a while. The thing is, we've been used to education. And then so I was like, okay, well, let's start a real estate meeting. I started a wholesale meeting back in 2013 off of a Sean Terry event. He came to Atlanta. He's like, someone should start a meetup. So I did. It was literally that's it. There was no plan. It was like, let's just do it and see what happens. That meeting went pretty steadily for about 7 years until basically COVID shut that down. And it was there might have been a few months off, but by and large, it was pretty steady. So I got used to being, and again, that's kind of becomes a danger. You kind of get used to being, I will never say I was the smartest guy in the room, but certainly one of the more experienced. And I will tell you, it is absolutely a blessing to walk into a room today and be the tadpole. I love it. I love it. Like the idea of going into a room and being one of the, like, I don't get excited about that. Like, there was a time where that was exciting. That's not exciting. I love to learn. And in order for me to learn, I got to be around people that they're not just necessarily smarter. They've got the scars of experience. They've got, hey, they have been through those trenches that I'm going to have to go through.
Battle scars.
They've got battle scars. And here's the other thing I've learned about super successful people that now I enjoy coaching people on this. Super successful people have this trait. In order for them to appreciate the amazing success that they have, they first had to walk through a very dark period. And they'll all tell you, if they didn't go through, for lack of a better term, hell on earth, they would not be able to appreciate what they now have.
Yeah.
And I think, and so I wonder, is part of being an entrepreneur that it should always be going up? And we're like, well, no, you can have some downs, but I think a lot of people's ideas of downs is, again, using that, hey, I'm going up. Okay, I had a little bump. I'm up, a little bump. Try, I'm up, and up, and you fall off a cliff.
Mm.
And you hit rock bottom, bam, face first on the ground. Now what are you gonna do after you get your consciousness back, right? So it's when you go through an experience like that, and and more people have gone through that experience than you would think. It's not all the social media, look at how great I am, or they go speak and oh, they're so inspirational. It's amazing how some very successful people I've had the privilege to speak with, they've been through some dark stuff, and you're like, whoa, oh. But at the same time, that's super encouraging, because you're like, wait a minute, if they did it, we'll get through it. It's just a choice. It's just a choice. So one of the things now is, you were talking about how to, helping people with coaching. I love coaching people. And if someone wants to coach, I'm all for it. But I do caution one thing. And that's, if you're going to be a coach, my question to you is this, because I think you should vet your coaches, right? There's so many coaches out there today. And that's great. But here's my question to you. If you're going to coach, have you been through hell on earth and lived to tell about it?
Yeah.
Because invariably, as a coach, you're going to have that student that's going to end up in that situation. Yeah. And if you've never walked through it, where you went through the darkest of the dark, how will you be able to help that person? So I've learned the challenge is not to push away adversity, which is our natural reaction, right? Nobody wants to go through adversity, but rather to embrace it. Oh, it's really hard. This is insanely hard. Oh, embrace it. When you stop fighting it, the game changes. And all of a sudden, instead of your brain thinking, OMG, your brain is thinking, how? How do we figure it out? And it will work tirelessly to figure it out. It doesn't always happen quickly. It might be a slow path, but it will figure it out one way or another, as long as we're committed. And that's the thing that Tony Robbins talks about. There's always a way if you're committed.
Right. Absolutely. If you're committed. And that's the perfect segue into my next question. So we've talked about, making mistakes. We've talked about the value of mentorship. Spend some time talking about your why. Because for those of us who know, if your why is not big enough to make you cry, you're probably going to quit before the miracle happens.
I've never heard it worded that way. If your why is not big enough to make you cry. I like that. I'm going to take that from you, if that's okay. Your permission. I'm going to quote you on, I like that. I like that. But it's true. I do an exercise with clients. And it sounds easy enough. It's called 7 Levels Deep. You've probably heard of it. And the whole point of that exercise is to really get to your why. And the idea is, the first part of the exercise, we're answering a very basic question, but it's all intellectual. And usually about halfway through the exercise, people run out of answers, because now they've exhausted all the easy answers. So when you ask someone their why, most of the time, you're not really getting their gut answer. You're getting the intellectual one. Perfect example you hear all the time. It's a buzzword. Well, I want generational wealth.
Yeah.
Great. What does that mean? You want 20 generations from now to have your wealth? I don't know, maybe. You're gonna make a lot of money if you want them to, you know, right? Like, because how do you know that generation 10 isn't gonna blow it all? And they're gonna
Right.
have to start over at 11,
Right.
right? Like, you don't know. So what does that really mean? It's a nice buzzword. It sounds good. It feels good. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's no depth to it.
Mhm.
Well, I want to have income for my retirement. Great. Right. And there's all kinds of common things. So what this exercise does is it gets past all of that and really get to what is the real reason why. And what I've learned with clients is what the real whys that drive us, it's usually only like 2 or 3 things. Like we might have 20 goals, maybe 5 goals, 10, 20, who knows? But there's usually only a couple, maybe 3 things tops that drive us. And if we can figure out how to get to that, now we've got something. So what's my why today? Simple. Whatever I do, I want it to be an experience that counts. I want it to be an experience that counts. Because you could say an easy answer like, well, I just want to make sure, you know, it's my wife and my kids. That's great. Why? Why your wife and your kids? There's 7 billion people in the world. There could be other people to help too, you know, right? So, well, my wife and my kids are my most important. Why? And and again, we can answer that, right? But when we really get down to it, there's a much deeper answer than just, well, it's because blah, 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 right?
Right.
And so I realize for me, it's whatever I do, and needs to be I want it to be experiential. Because I'm of the age now where I bought stuff, and what it feels like to have stuff. And that stuff is nice and all, but what really where are the memories made? It's those experiences. So it's not, hey, I just want to do this for my wife. It's, I want to experience life at the fullest with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have experiences with my children that are memorable that they'll take with them. And then they'll, you know, they'll be like, hey, remember when we did this with dad, and they're sharing it with their kids, or, and so on. And so, you know, it's those experiences.
Right.
I'll give you a great example that my wife just did, and I thought it was super cool. I need to try it with my parents. We'll see how it goes. But she said to her father, hey, you know, I don't know a number of things of when her father was young. Would you be willing to just take a tape? Well, I said tape recorder, now it's the iPhone, the voice memo, and just start telling stories about your youth. And I was like, what a great idea to ask your parent, hey, could you just take some time and just record yourself sharing stories about your youth to then give to your kids. And I was like, what a great idea. What a great idea. And it got me thinking, wow, I don't know what my dad was doing when he was 12 years old. I know a little bit about his teenage years, but not a lot.
Right. Right.
So we're like, all right, let's go ask dad about, you know, and mom about those stories. Because, you know, the older generation has a tremendous amount of wisdom that we don't always tap into, just as we're too busy to ask.
Right.
But wow, when I look at people in business as well as life that have been super successful, when you talk to an older person who's been successful, I mean, just sit down, pull out the popcorn, cookies, whatever, and just soak in those moments as long as you can. Because those are truly wow experiences, truly wow.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So we're going to take a hard turn now, Frank. All right.
Okay.
So some actionable things. So they fly you into a city you've never been in. They take away your cash. They take away your contacts. You got 30, 45 days. how are you going to do a deal? Lay it out for us.
So if you drop me in a city and we're starting basically from, do I have a cell phone?
You got a cell phone.
Yeah, we got a phone. Well, if you've got a phone, you can get probably just about anything done. Right? Nowadays, you could get anything done with a phone. So I'm going to go network with everyone I possibly. First, I'm going to look up who are the people doing a lot of business. And nowadays with social media, it's not too hard to find people that are at least doing some level of business. And from there, we'll probably figure out who's doing a lot of business. But it's a lot of phone calls, it's a lot of networking, it's a lot of meeting people. And it's creating connections and also connecting people together.
Okay.
So it's you're connecting with people, but you're also connecting people. And I'm going to do anything I can to add value. So I may not know that city, but I do know my craft. So I know I can walk into a room and there's a good chance I could add value to somebody. The odds are in my favor. Now, could I strike out here or there? Probably. We all do. But overall, the odds are going to be in my favor. So I know I can walk in to a phone call to meet, whether it's realtors, investors, lenders, whoever. And we can create some positive synergies to figure out how to get things done. After I've made some connections, invariably leads are going to come from that. It shouldn't take more than probably 2 or 3 days to start getting leads. Worst case, you'll probably start generating leads within a day, realistically. So you could start connecting with people and making offers. You could go out and try to like, oh, you said we don't have a whole lot of money here, so I might not be spending much money on marketing, because you can go out and get deals without spending money on marketing. And I will tell you that's, one of the best ways to market for deals, network. Just network. If you do nothing but sit around and talk to people all day, you'll find a deal somewhere. You'll find one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I loved it. So for my folks who are listening, a couple key things that I took away from that. So a lot of us kind of limit ourselves. Well, we don't have the contacts, or we don't have the access to capital. But everything Frank just said had to do with connecting with the right people and bringing some level of value. And that is such a key term, bringing value. So Frank, pick up there for someone who is on their front side of their entrepreneur journey. What kind of actionable steps can they engage in to bring more value to the marketplace?
So it depends on who they're talking to, right? Depends on who they're talking to. Nowadays, you can look up almost anybody on social media. I'll give you an example. Right now, we're marketing on LinkedIn. And we're running searches to figure out who to connect to. And the goal is very simple. If I want to connect to XYZ person, what value can I bring? So it's not just a generic, hi, my name is Frank, let's connect, right? It's, oh, this person is a multifamily syndicator in multiple cities. So, all right, what's my language going to be to that person? What value can I bring to them? Well, I could say, well, I could be interested. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Such and such, pleasure to meet you. I saw you were a multifamily syndicator. Congratulations on your success. That's awesome. And I just wanted to have a brief conversation because I'm interested in multifamily syndication within the next 12 months. Do you have a moment to share a little bit about what you do and how maybe I could fit in on that with your next project? And even if it's not a fit, I have a lot of connections I've made that might be interested, and I can introduce you to some people as well. Now, I completely just made that up, but that is a conversation that could easily happen if I was interested in investing in multifamily,
Right. Right.
right?
Love it.
So it's not like value means you have to do business day one. In fact, a lot of times when you add value, all you're really doing is planting a seed for future business.
Oh,
See,
so
too many people think, all right, in order to add value, and I get it, right? Especially if you don't have a lot of experience, like what value could I bring? It's because a lot of times you're thinking something has to happen today. Most of the time, nothing's going to happen today. It's just a seed plant. It's, hey, what can I do that can help, or whether now or in the future, so that there's an opportunity to have a conversation to do business later. Too many people want to hit a home run on their first at bat. But a baseball game's 9 innings. You might be 5, 6, 8 innings in before you even get on base.
right.
But before that, what happens? You show up at the plate. You show up,
Absolutely.
right? And when you show up, you have the opportunity to do a little something, just a little seed plant. And then it
So
just, over time, it builds.
so good. So good. I love it. I love it. All right. So Frank, another hard turn. Another hard turn.
Okay.
So we spent a fair amount of time on this platform talking about abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset, and how in the Black and brown community that is a big self-limiting aspect. So if you could share some stories of students that may have had some limiting beliefs, and how you were helping reshape their concept of what's possible.
Well, before I tell you about a student, I have to first talk about the main student. Our main student that we all have is ourselves.
Amen.
We're the
Amen.
first. We're the
Yes.
first. And I think this is prolific across any community. And the best way I will describe this is I had the opportunity recently to give a short speech. And I had 7 minutes to come up with a speech. After consulting with my wife, I gave a speech on the subject of joy. Now, why joy? And what does that have to do with scarcity versus abundance? Well, the long and short of the speech was, we had the opportunity to define life is going to happen no matter what we say about it. Despite all our plans and our best intentions, life will happen. And we don't get a say. It's inevitable.
Right.
What we do get a say in is how we respond to the inevitable, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, inevitable doesn't mean horrific. It might be minor, it might be major, and it's usually a little of both, right?
Correct.
So in the speech, I basically talk about how joy is about a state of mind where you can take any situation and have inner peace, satisfaction, that you going through the experience from that right frame of mind will only make you a better person.
Right.
And I talk about, hey, and there's a verse out of the Bible, count it all joy. And that for me has become a life verse where it's like, count it all. All means, it's a very simple word. It means literally everything, literally. Everything can be counted as joy, meaning it doesn't matter what happens. I get to choose how to respond to it.
I love that.
And so my wife in particular, I talk about her in the speech, you know, she would ride her bike listening to a song called Joy every day. And on her exercise bike. And what was cool was she's riding the bike has a rhythm. right? You're right at the pedals, you got to flow. Well, she lives her life to that rhythm of joy. So it's like her big word is joy. We have like decorations in the house that say joy. But it's like a rhythm. I realize, wait, joy is like a rhythm of life. And if we can get that, we're effectively going to handle the abundance, because now it's not abundance versus scarcity. It's something happens. How am I going to choose to respond?
Sure.
I can choose to be scared, scarcity, or think it can't happen or whatever. Or I can choose to make the most of it. Because the reality is, you can have joy or you can have scarcity.
Mhm.
Or better said, doubt. Joy or doubt. Take your pick.
Mhm.
But you're not going to have both at the exact same time.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you just got to pick one. So you got to get that right within yourself. You have the power. It does not matter literally what happened. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean things that happen won't be bad. Okay, I mean, sad things happen every day, right? We all understand that.
Mhm.
But no matter how amazing or how bad it is, mountaintop or the valley, we get to choose how to respond. And that is immensely powerful. And everyone's got that power every single day, countless times per day. I dare anyone pull out a notebook and start counting how many decisions you make every day. It's a lot. If you really think about it, it's a lot of decisions.
Mhm.
And if you can get that right within yourself, now when I put your coaching hat on, it's much easier not just to see it in others, which is what most people are. Most people are like armchair quarterbacks, right? Thank you, social media. You have made everyone an armchair quarterback, top level expert at every single subject on the entire planet, 24/7, 365. Thank you, social media, right?
Right.
It's insane. Rather than stopping and saying, oh, wait, this person needs help. Now I can appreciate the challenge they're going through because I got it taken care of inside.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean you're perfect, because I still screw up every single day. We all do, right?
Mhm.
But I can, when I look at that person that's having a problem, I can appreciate the problem because they got to that position through their journey and their decisions and their background and their history and how they were raised and what classes they took and who were their teachers and so. And that's unique to them.
Yeah.
It's completely unique to them. Who am I to judge? Rather, instead of judge, let's appreciate. And from a position of appreciation, combined with my ability to how to respond to anything, that I have that control, all of a sudden, it becomes much easier to empower somebody.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I'm not letting you off the hook. I'm still looking. I'm still looking for a story about one of your successful students.
Oh, yeah, no, one of my successful students, yeah, you did ask that. So a fun one I did was, this was a few years ago. Sweet lady, real sweet lady. She bought a deal and it was her first rehab. And she did a great job. She did a great job. I coached her through the rehab, and she probably overdid it. And she went a little over the top. So, but that was how she wanted it,
All
and I
right.
respected that. I respect, like, at the end of the day, it's your house. If you want to do it, go for it. Just make sure it's going to work. And she was able to have a nice, profitable first flip. And it worked out really well for her. And I was really proud of her for that. But what was really cool about that experience was just coaching her, not just to do the job, but to really take ownership and not be afraid to take a chance. Now, take a chance with, doesn't mean go foolishly try things, but hey, if you really think that finish, because that's really where it was, is going to add that extra little pop, just run it against your numbers, make sure it makes sense. And so she made a few choices, and I would poke at her going, you spent too much money. but you know, it was all in jest. The reality is it worked, and it worked very nicely for her. It was really cool. So you know, just the ability to coach people through a project, that's actually one of my favorite ways to coach, because every single session you have is a value add session, because at every single week there's new questions. In fact, in between sessions there's questions.
Right.
So it's a great way to be but that's coaching, right? That's coaching.
Yeah.
When I coach students, like, yeah, we're going to do a once a week thing, but if you want to reach out to me in between, that's fine. Because you're gonna, and now it's even cooler because, and I learned about this not long ago with Zoom, they have that clips feature. Oh, I love that. Because now it's not just, hey, let me send you an email. It's, hey, they text me a question, they email me a question. I get on Zoom clips and I make a quick little video.
Oh,
And
no kidding.
Yeah, and then you send them the link. So now they're getting to see me answer their question, just like we're on a call right now, on video. It says, hey, consider la da 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 da, whatever it is, to do, you know, for your next steps, whatever their question is. So I love that about coaching. So it keeps it more interactive. I mean, let's face it, email and text are fine for conveying small bits of information. And that's about all they're good for.
That's all. Absolutely. Right.
So, but real, you know, when that, be able to send an audio or a video message, you know, that's next level stuff. That's super great. I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, you just shared with me a technique that I gotta delve into. But that one point that actually cultivated another question. So share with my audience how you're leveraging technology, specifically AI, to do some of the amazing things that you're doing in multiple states.
Oh, AI. So AI. So AI is not going anywhere, right? We all know it's here to stay. The question is how to leverage. I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I'm not saying, let me get Chat GPT to write everything for me. Because that's happened enough now where people can smell it right away.
Sure.
Right? Someone that's good with copy, they'll smell it, drive. I know a couple of friends that are copywriters, it drives them insane. So, but rather AI is a great tool in many respects to help with either process or to bounce ideas off them. So one of my coaches actually said to me something that I like to think about. He's like, use AI as a coach. So for example, you get on Chat GPT, because that's the one everyone knows about, right? So we'll go with the low-hanging fruit. Chat GPT has an insane amount of information that it's aware of, right? We all know that. So I might say, and we'll use a real estate example. Hey, I want to do, let's say, an email campaign. Give me 5 emails about, you know, how to do new construction, you know, in a way that's not intimidating to a first-time investor. Okay, we'll just pick that as just random thing.
Right.
I might go to Chat GPT and say, give me 5 emails that I would send to use for marketing. And it's going to give me whatever it's going to give me. And then I might go back to Chat GPT and say, hey, thank you for saying, you know, even the computers were thanking. Thank you, Chat GPT. That's a good start. Can you make it more creative?
Right.
As if, you know, right, the computer's going to be creative. What does that really mean? So this is important. Can you make it more creative with no emojis? That's a good one. Okay, leave the emojis out. Let's get to the meat. And what I'll do is I'll take that text. Now, am I going to copy paste it? Probably not. But what I do is I can look at what it's giving me and I can use it to prompt my mind. So the idea of AI is AI, again, it's just a tool, but the real driving force is still up here.
Right.
So if I can take my mind and ask better questions of Chat GPT, I'm going to get better answers. And then when it gives me those answers, I'm not going to copy paste. Maybe it's amazing and I could, but usually I'm going to take it and I'm going to spin it. Or maybe I'm going to copy none of it, but it'll just give me some ideas. It might just give me some ideas and go, well, I'm not going to take what it said, but I like that it mentioned this one word, and then I'm going to go create my own thing. So AI is, we're just talking about the low-hanging fruit. You could do this with pictures. There's all kinds of video things. I've got a friend who's doing like the whole live avatar, copies her voice, la da da, and it's like, wow. And it's amazing what it can do. But at the end of the day, however you choose to use AI, it still starts up here. Your mind has to be the driving force. It's just a tool to either make you do it faster and more efficiently, or maybe just to prompt ideas. And maybe it's a combination.
Yes, yes.
So
I love how you pulled it all together, because so the truth of the matter is the one untapped thing that most of my audience is becoming aware of is, so we go to school. I'm a 15-year educator, and I've indoctrinated a lot of my students to think that you either want to go to the university or you want to go to a trade school. And at the end of the day, and I didn't learn this immediately, but I learned later that there's levels of value. There's there's implementation, being able to do stuff. You were an engineer. Then there is management, being able to bring components together, and that's fine. And we kind of get stuck in that rut. So where many of us never get to is the idea of communication and imagination. And those are the higher levels of value. And the whole conversation that you just had about how to leverage AI is to allow you to be more imaginative. Because once you can solve a problem, you're now bringing value to the marketplace and people will pay you for it.
Sure.
I've never heard the way you have explained ChatGPT. I never heard it or connected the dots the way I just did. So I appreciate you doing that. I thought you were going to say something else, but the way you said it was cool. Because I actually have I have a AI right now that is actually recording our conversation, and it does dictation for me.
Right.
So there's so many ways to becoming more efficient. And I guess the message that I find myself having with a lot of my friends who are not entrepreneurs is that AI is not going anywhere. So learn how to master it so you don't feel like it's taking your job or it's taking opportunities away. Because that's not what we want. We don't want people to feel victimized. And you said something about making choices and making decisions that I really took to heart, because a lot of us kind of abdicate those decisions when we get comfortable in a place of employment.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things we need to do early on, and this was something that I don't know that it's a lesson that you ever fully master, you just get better at. And that is always having the confidence in yourself to take that step forward that in your head or your heart, usually both, that you need to take. Okay, easier said than done, but having the confidence to know you can take it and you'll be okay. Regardless of the outcome, you will be okay, right? Somehow, some way, you will be okay. And the other piece of it is not just having the confidence, but also it's easy, and we're talking real estate now, this is the best way to say it. Let's say I'm a new wholesaler.
Mm-hmm.
Very common. So many people get into it, and they're going to go do bandit signs.
Yep. Been there, done that.
And they're going to go put out a bunch of signs. And in all the years I've been doing this, here's a stat that has been very consistent for us. If I go out in my car and I call 10 bandit signs any given weekend, I will be lucky if 2 people call me back and have a conversation. So that means there's 8 people that took the time to put it out there on any given weekend of any year, and they will not have that conversation. And so you mentioned communication. The most important part, and again, this is where I wish I had the coaching years ago. It was not about how many deals we do. People get out there, oh, well, that guy has done 100,000, not 100,000, he's done 100 deals or 500 deals or 1,000 deals. I talked to a guy today who's done 10,000 deals. Amazing, fantastic guy. But even we talked about, I said, it's not about deal count. It's about how many people are you meeting that you're having quality communication. I had the opportunity to learn from a uber high net worth person, uber high net worth. And he said, business is easy. I can describe business in 3 words. What are the 3 words, right? We're taking notes. And he says, business is people.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't learn real estate that way. I learned about here's how you do deals, here's how you flip a house, here's how you buy and hold, and nothing wrong with any of that. It's all important, right? But the most important thing we need to learn is that business is people. And which means we've got to learn those soft skills early. I came to the soft skill game way too late, in my opinion. It's never too late, right? But you say to yourself, man, if I'd learned these soft skills 5, 10 years sooner, 15, maybe when I was in IT, forget before real estate. If I was better at soft skills, wow, how would that have helped moving forward? It's about communication. And along those same lines, and you've heard this before, Robert Kiyosaki talks about it. You got to learn sales.
Yes.
And what is sales? Sales is communication. But most people that think they're good at selling, they ain't too good. In fact, very few people that think they're good are really any good. But they don't know until you get in front of a really true gifted salesperson. You're like, okay, I got a lot of work to do.
I got some work to do.
I'm talking to myself, right? Like I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about me.
Yes.
I now have a sales coach. And
yes.
there's not a week that goes by that I'm just like, huh. And it's not that it's hard, is that it's a shift.
Right.
Because it's not about, hey, Frank, are you good at real estate? It has nothing to do with real estate. Remember, real estate is just a vehicle. We could pop out real estate and we could put bubblegum machines in there, right? Just as easily. So it's about, can I communicate effectively with people? That's really where we need to put a lot of our time. And I realize, as much as I've learned about real estate, it's the 80-20 rule. All the stuff I know, it's 20% of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
All these years of experience, all these deals, build this, rent that, flip this, wholesale that. It's 20% of the equation. The 80% is the people.
Right. Right.
If we can get that and learn how to sell, then business becomes a lot easier. I wish, instead of getting a bunch of real estate training in my early years, and this is for all the people that are newer investors, newer entrepreneurs, I'm going to flip the script on you a little bit. Instead of trying to figure out how to do all these different things in real estate, just figure out one.
Wow.
And then go spend a bunch of time learning soft skills and how to do business. Because if you get the business fund, and by the way, soft skill communication is a fundamental of business. And if we can get our business fundamentals right, real estate is just a vehicle that sits on top. And that's where we went wrong, is we got really good at real estate, but those underlying fundamentals weren't quite what we needed them to be. And so now I will preach with anybody I coach. I'm like, sure, I'll teach you real estate, but first and foremost, I got to teach you some business fundamentals. Because you might not want to do real estate 5-10 years from now.
So good. Yep. So
But the fundamentals never change. We all know Michael Jordan. There was a great t-shirt posters that had that phrase. The fundamentals never change.
right.
And that's true of any sport. It's true in business. We get those fundamentals. Real estate is just a vehicle, sits on top. I don't want to do real estate. Say no problem. Go learn something else. Those fundamentals.
Right. Right.
The best, and I'll leave you with this example. I'm a musician. And I play percussion. But and one of my kids is a musician. He's a pianist. So if I had to do it all again, would I be a drummer or a pianist? Well, I'd be the pianist all day long. Because if you can learn piano, you can play any instrument you want. Because a pianist, you learn melody, you learn harmony, you learn rhythm. You learn how to use all your limbs to some degree, mostly fingers, but there's some pedal stuff going on in there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, you're learning the big picture of music when you learn piano. Whereas you could go learn to be a percussionist like myself, or you could be just a drum set player, you could be a world percussion player, you might learn a little mallet percussion, you might learn a little timpani, but that's the point, is you might learn pieces of it, but you don't get that. You can be good at any of those areas and still not be a complete musician, per se. The way a pianist gets the big picture. That instrument, people really get the big picture of music. It's probably the most fundamental of all the instruments. So I tell you, someone wants to learn music, what's first instrument? Learn piano. Doesn't mean you're going to be a pianist, but you just learn some music fundamentals that you can now apply to winds, brass, percussion, keyboard, and so on and so forth.
I love it. I love it. So as we get ready to land this plane, Frank, this is my final question for you. If you could time travel and go back to yourself 2 decades ago, what would the biggest piece of advice be that you would share with yourself?
Easy. Learn how to do people. Learn how to do people. 2 decades ago, I was hot and heavy in my IT career. Still in the earlier days, but just consuming knowledge, experience. Here's how the computer, and you're right, what was going on 20 years ago? Computers were still becoming more prolific. We didn't have iPhones yet. That was still before iPhone 20 years ago. Hard to believe an iPhone hadn't been around that long. Okay, we're getting close, but it still wasn't out. I remember there was a guy where I used to work. This was around 20 years ago. He came in the office. He had the first iPod.
Yes.
The first iPod, first gen. I remember it. And we're like, wow, that's kind of cool. And like, turn dial and wow, that's kind of cool. And right, iPhone wasn't quite yet. It was close, but it wasn't quite yet. But I think 20 years ago, what was my biggest challenge? What were the challenges in my job? I was full-time IT then. It's communication. It was people. It was, how do you do people? And and I'm not, no disrespect to the job I worked 20 years ago. Most of our job was spent learning about technology. It was exciting, it was fun, it was cool, and all those things. And did we learn how to do people? A little bit. But the proportion was probably 90-95% tech job stuff, 5-10% on how to be better communicator. We got to flip that script.
Right.
I think the majority of our time should be, how do we do people?
So good. So good. I appreciate it. Frank, I really appreciate your time, man. You were a super giving, but a super busy person. Um, Share with my audience how they can reach out to you and access some of your stuff that you have on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got an ebook that I can give away. It's basically the 6 steps on how to do any deal, whether it's wholesaling, flipping, buy and hold, or new construction. 6 steps to do any of them. And there's 6 unique steps each one. So I've got that ebook. How to get it? Real simple. You can text me at 678-408-2228. Again, 678-408-2228. Send me your email address. And the other thing I'll give you if you're interested is I'll do a 15-minute coaching session with you. Totally free, and be happy to talk to you. And just if I can be a value add to you, I think I can, be happy to do it. And so what I'll do is I'll send you the ebook and I'll send you the link to just have a free 15-minute coaching session, and we'll chat, and hopefully I can be of value to you. Again, that number is 678-408-2228. Shoot me a text.
So amazing. And so when I go through the editing, that'll be in our descriptions so they can reach out to you. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, maybe it's a year when they see this video. But this is a good man. He's a wise man and he's a giving man. So good to have you on our podcast today, Frank.
Well, no, thank you so much, Earl. It's been a pleasure to chat. And I just, if I can be of value to somebody, if I can help somebody just do it a little bit better than how we did it, then that's time well spent. It's time well spent.
Amen. Appreciate you, my friend. All right, blessings, everybody. Have a good evening and level up. Bye-bye.